You've reached Conversation with Mr. A. This is your host, Anthony Abastilla. Thank you for listening. Let's get right to the episode. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Conversations with Mr. A. This has been a long time coming. It's been a little while. This is the very first phone interview that I'm doing. And so with me, my guest for this edition is with Sandy Horney, who is a teacher at Moses Lake High School. For starters, Sandy, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview.
Oh, it's a pleasure being with you. Good friend.
Yes, just to give you guys, the listeners, a brief history idea. So several years ago, actually way back, 2017-18, I got to work at Moses Lake High School. So I lived in Moses Lake for about a year. And I was a counselor there, and I got to work with Sandy for that 1 year, and I got to know him, and he became a really good friend, and he's still a friend to this day, and we've kept in touch. And so Sandy, getting to know you, the first question I have is, I know we've talked about this, you've had quite the career experience. My understanding is you were a teacher at first, then you were an air traffic controller, and back to a teacher. I was wondering if you can kind of explain a little bit your career path.
Oh, sure. I went to college, got my math degree, taught school for 4 years in White Swan, Washington. And then God began to work in my life, and there's a lot of story in there, but it was right around the time of the Reagan strike, and I was looking for something else to do. I wasn't real happy with the direction the school system was going, and wasn't sure. And there was an air traffic control strike, and President Reagan fired several air traffic controllers, and I thought that sounds kind of interesting. And so I started the application process, and what I know, how many people were trying for it, and all that other stuff. God just put me in that position, and I became an air traffic controller as a result. So I did that for 27 years, and then when I turned 56, the way I phrase it, I have kind of a dry sense of humor. The way I phrase it is the FAA told me, this is too stressful for you. You can't do this anymore. There's a mandatory retirement age. And so since I'm looking for something less stressful to do, so now I'm teaching math at the local high school.
Wow. So I'm curious, just to go back a little bit. So you're a teacher for 4 years. This was in the 80s. You mentioned the Reagan era. How was the teaching profession back then during the 80s?
Well, for one thing, one standout difference is I still have my paddle that I used from back there.
Oh.
And the paddle was not a overused thing, at least not in my case, but it was a good tool to use. It would go something like this: Anthony, you broke the rules of the classroom, and I would get you to acknowledge which rule you broke. And then I would say something like that. Well, I wasn't the one that gave write it 100 times, or I'll behave in Miss Horner's classroom or something like that. I would give you some extra math problems to do. And then if you did not want to do that, then you would have the option of taking, we call them hacks. You could take 3 hacks, let's say. And if you decided to do that, then I would take you out in the hall with another teacher, and we would go through that process again. The purpose of the whole thing was to get you to obey the rules of the classroom. And you would again own up to which rule you broke, and then I would ask you, and this is your choice, and you would say yes, and then I would say bend over and hurt under supervised by somebody else. And I did that, as I recall, 4 times in 4 years, and nobody came back for it again. And it was and then I would allow them to come into the classroom, and then I would, just like I would with my own kids, I would let them know by my actions, whatnot, that I still like them and all that other stuff. But the purpose of the whole thing is to obey the rules of the classroom. A lot
Was
different than today.
Yeah, yeah. Was this now grade level? Was this high school or middle school,
I
elementary, or?
I taught in a small school, and I taught seventh grade math, eighth grade math, and then in the high school as well. So the middle school is high school and high school both. They were co-located.
How were the students like back then? I'm just curious. I mean, from your experiences during that time.
Well, well, the clientele of the makeup of the student body was probably 50% Hispanic, a lot of migrant, and 30%, 40% Yakima Indian, and then the rest, whatever's left in the rest, and it was kind of a poor community, a farming community. So you had them like that. Let's see. So when we would have open house with the parents, and the parents are, if I let the parent know that there was a problem with the child, I mean, they were right on it. They were right on it to support and to take care of it, um, and to support in that way. Nowadays, with all the telecommunications that we have, this just about 3-4 weeks ago, I sent every one of my students an email, uh, and their parents. So some up to three in addition, adults in addition to the student itself. So several hundred. I received emails, because that seems to be the way to go. It's hard to catch people on the phone anymore, it seems like. But I got, out of several hundred emails, I got 4 responses back.
Wow. Wow. Um, just leading in, so 4 years teaching, transitioned to being the air traffic controller. How was the transition like?
Um, Going towards air traffic control, I was really sensing God's leading. I wasn't sure where, and I look back, and boy, He really directed my path to air traffic control, and it is a stressful job. I never really considered it that way. The training they made very strong. They intentionally tried to make it stressful to weed out people who don't do that well. And but I never really considered it stressful. But I really enjoyed moving airplanes. The more the better. It was just it was never the same, and each day was different. And it was just really rewarding to do that. When I had to retire from that, I put in for a job with I looked locally, and there was 3 positions open, and I could have had any one of the 3. I mean, the doors just flew open. I wasn't ready to go fishing or whatever you do when you retire, and I really enjoy teaching and getting the light to turn on and trying to figure kids out and trying to help them learn and try to help them, encourage them to learn, and try to figure out if there's a way that I can influence them in that way. Uh, about 3 years ago, maybe a little longer, I began wondering, man, I'm way older than these kids. I'm wondering if I'm fooling myself. I wonder if I really should. So I was really praying and analyzing the whole thing. Like, I'm enjoying what I'm doing, but am I in the right spot? And it wasn't just a couple weeks later, I got a letter from a student who was a senior, and I had not had her for 4 years. For three, it had been 3 years since I had her in the class, and she was thanking me for being the father figure that she never had, and how much she had learned, and so I said, "Oh, okay, Lord, I guess I'm supposed to stay." But I'm enjoying it. It has its challenges. It has, I mean, the system uh, doesn't seem like we're getting a lot of help from the state. at least as far as what we can do. But as long as I'm allowed to teach them math and teach them some values, and I'm at this point in my career, I really enjoy it.
That's awesome. That's really awesome, and I definitely want to divulge more in just their second go out at the teaching, just in a little bit, a little later. But I'm just wondering, for our viewers out there who, or I'm sorry, our listeners, excuse me, that maybe those who aren't familiar of what being an air traffic controller is like, could you kind of describe a little bit what goes into being an air traffic controller, and how you get in, like the process, just so people have a kind of an idea?
Sure. The process that I went through is you took it's the what do you call it? Civil test to test your aptitude. It's kind of like the military ASVAB thing, and so you take a test. When I did it, I'm not even sure what they do now. I think they have junior colleges and stuff that do some of the weeding process out. But I took a test, and then your name goes on a register. And at that particular time, if you could get 5 extra points if you were female, 5 extra points if you were minority, 5 extra points if you were a veteran. And it was in a period of time in 82 in that where there was a lot of people seeking to do that. I had no idea what it entailed or what air traffic controller they did. It just kind of sounded interesting, and I had been praying that the Lord would direct me to what he wanted me to do, whether it was go to seminary and preach or I didn't really care what. I just wanted to be where God wanted me to be. And so then if you get put on a roster, on a register, and then they start picking from the top numbers on down, and so once I got selected, then I had a 3-month school in Oklahoma City, a training school, and over half. The first thing they told us when we got there, there's about 400 of us in an auditorium, and they said that 400, there's 400 of you here, and over half of you won't make it. Statistically, so it's going to be you or the guy sitting next to you that's not going to make it. They were trying to induce stress to help weed out those, and I just remember thinking, "Oh, shut up! If I can't do this, I'll go do something else. This isn't the end all," and which ended up being to my benefit, because moving airplanes can be stressful. I mean, you have life and property they're in your hands, but I liken it to driving a car with a clutch. When you first drive a car with a clutch, you're you got the gas, you got the clutch, you're shifting the gears, you got traffic. If you're on a hill, you got to use your brake, and I mean it can be kind of stressful. But the more you do it and the more you check, when I drive now, I don't think, oh, I could kill somebody, or I've got several $1,000s in my hands and I could damage. I don't do any of that. I go through the checklists of watching other drivers, watching the lights, watching what's going on, the conditions of the road, and then I get from one place to another safely because I do that. Even though the possibility is something could happen, I don't concentrate on that. I concentrate doing my job well. When I was an air traffic controller, there's constant adjustments that need to be made. You have wind, you have altitude, you have pilots, you have all kinds of different stuff going on. And so realizing you always have a plan B. You don't get focused on any one thing. You have to have the ability to see the whole thing and not get tunneled in on one. When you get tunneled in on one aspect of the job, something happens on another place and you're in trouble. So you constantly are reviewing, checking, rechecking, and I just really, really enjoyed my career as an air traffic controller. I just really enjoyed it.
Awesome. And I think you mentioned earlier that there was a period of time where you had to make the switch back to teaching. I think, could you elaborate just a tad on that? It kind of said like almost a forced type of retirement. Can you elaborate just a little bit?
Sure. In the system where I went into, when you turn 56, you cannot move airplanes past that. And at least where I went, that was what I was faced. The only exception to that was if the administrator back in Washington, D.C. decided that to give you a waiver. And I had applied for a waiver. And when I found out that I wasn't going to get one, that was in May of 2008. And I had, coming up on knowing I might have to retire, I had looked into seeing if I could update my teaching credentials, because I had taught in Washington State before, and they couldn't find my my application. They couldn't find my former thing. I tried 2 or 3 times, and I just kind of given up. So when this was several months prior, and so when I got the news that they were not going to give me the waiver, that I was going to have to retire, I called up Olympia again, and the response is, "Oh yeah, it's right here, and you can have your permanent sub thing, and we'll just go into the works to re-up your deal." And so when I found that out, then I looked online and saw that there were some jobs available in Moses Lake. I didn't even have to go anywhere past that, and it wasn't like a week. It was a real short period of time from when I found out I wasn't going to be approved for a waiver to where I had a job interview and was going to be working in the Moses Lake school system in the fall. God has been really good that way.
Yeah, no, that's quite the story. I'm wondering how was the transition back? So from air traffic controller back to teaching, how did it feel just transitioning back to teaching?
Oh, sure. First of all, as an air traffic controller, I was involved in, I have 5 kids, and I helped in each of their classrooms several times a month, because my schedule enabled me to do that. So I was always in with kids like that. I was involved in the Awana program, so I've been involved with kids like that. The neighbor kids, sports, coaching. I've been around kids, my own 5 kids. I was the education guy for air traffic control, so I did most of when schools wanted a speaker, or so I did a lot of assemblies and tours for that as well. And in fact, was it 2 or 3 years? I think it was 3 years that I actually taught a course at Central Washington University in their aviation program. I had a class that I taught. So it's not like I was completely away from education. But the transition back was, I know there's differences. It's different being a parent and volunteering than actually being the teacher itself. So God gave me like the worst class. One of my, I think I had 3 or 4 classes. We were in a 4-period day then. That was the class from hell, I guess you could say.
That bad?
Yes, the teachers would come in my room for something, and they would look at the students in this one particular class, and say, "Oh, that's wrong. What are you talking about? That's just wrong. What are you talking about? They should never put these kids in the same room like that." So I had that comment several, but actually it was a gift. It was a gift because even though they ran me through the ringer, I got to find out in a short period of time what works and what doesn't work. What worked from 1976 to 1980, and what didn't work from 1976, and it gave me the confidence and all that other stuff. I passed with flying colors, but it was a real gift having to work, but it helped me figure out just exactly how to what my classroom management style was going to what would work and what wouldn't work. So that made the transition much easier. Also, I was on a cart. I did not have a room for I think it was 3 years, and so I was going from room to room uh, for 3 different years, and you get to know other people a little bit better because most of the time the teachers would stay in the room and you have conversation more. You get to talk more than what if you just been in my room. So God is good to me that way. It really made the transition back. And then I will say this: kudos to the Moses Lake Math Department. I've always felt support. Um, if I needed any help or needed any questions or needed something, they've always been right there to to back me up or to help me out.
That's awesome. And just earlier, I know you're talking about some of the rewards of teaching is just getting students to open their minds. And one thing I know about you, and I remember this from years ago, is I know you will, when a student is trying or when they have a situation, I know you will help advocate. Do you remember the situation that we had? This was years ago. The student, I'll never forget this. The student, she was a good kid. She was doing running start. Unfortunately, she got into a car accident, and as a result, she had suffered a nasty concussion. Nasty concussion. It affected her as far as vision, and we had to that last semester. We had to get to algebra, and we had to put her in your class, late edition, and that was tough. That was some major struggles, and I think one of the things that one of my for me, this was just a great experience, was just helping her out. We helped her through. She graduated. She made it through, and uh, from what I think you told me this several years ago, she's doing well today. Do you remember that?
I do, and I'm looking right at her face, and it was a real blessing because uh, she blessed me as much as I blessed her. Hey, if I've got a kid that's got issues, but they're wanting to work and they're willing to work, I will work with them. I'll find a way to work with them and make it work if they're gonna put it out. And so the fact that she's a sweet kid and the fact that she did what needed to be done to get past, she wasn't asking for a handout. She just needed somebody to work with her, and I love it when you can do that because then it's a big win.
Agreed. I hope she's doing well today. I know it's been a little while. I hope she's doing well to this day. Um, questions, in it. I was just thinking, from all the experiences you've been through. I know you told me God's kind of bring you through a lot. Um, what would you tell your teenager self? So if you were, if you could go back in time machine, knowing with all the experiences you've been through, what would you tell yourself today? What would you tell your 18-year-old self back then?
Oh, that's a tough one in the sense that I don't know that I'd do a whole lot. I would do things a whole lot different, but I think the way I was raised and my parents went through the Depression, and
Oh
my
wow.
dad lost his dad um, when he had to go to work to help support the family when he was 16, and so they were pretty frugal. My dad was a pastor, and they knew how to you manage their money well, I guess you put it that way, or their lack of money, and make things work. And it was important for my dad for us to know how to work, so that would not be an issue down the road. And I'm very grateful for my parents and the way that they raised me. And I knew, probably from 6 or 7 years old, that when I graduated from high school, I was going to be on my own. I also knew that I was going to go to Grace College. That's where my dad had gone. That's where my two older brothers and two older sisters went. So that was my goal, to go to college, and I saved up every penny I had from that I'd ever worked, and because I knew I was going to be on my own, and taught me to be self-sufficient, wash my own clothes, iron, uh, sew, do whatever needs to be done, because I mean that's what had to be done when I was growing up. And so I'm really grateful for my parents. Uh, when I graduated from high school, they drove me to Indiana and dropped me off there, and I've been on my own ever since.
Wow. Wow. That's remarkable. That is definitely remarkable. That's awesome. Okay, Sandy. So, towards we're almost at the end of this interview. What I usually like to do at the very end is I do a small game called word association. And so what I'll do is I'll give you a word or two, and then just tell me like the first thing that comes to mind.
Sure.
Your fast thoughts. Now, this is with all the podcast episodes I've done. The running joke that I've had is pickles. For me personally, pickles is yuck. I despise pickles. Let's go with the first word is pickles. What's your first thing that comes to mind when it comes to pickles?
Sweet first, and then dill second.
Okay. 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 Social media.
On one hand, it's a great tool. I can keep track with my relatives in Hong Kong and London and all around the United States. And on the other hand, you have to be careful that it doesn't. Can be very addictive. And I see it even with my kids at school. It's a good check mark. You can't be 10 seconds alone. You got to have your phone. So it's a good, wonderful tool. I love the FaceTiming with my kids, with my grandkids, because I would, have 9 grandkids, and none of them even in the same state. And so I like that. But at the same time, it's kind of scary the reprogramming of the mind. So a little of both.
Okay. Rap music.
Rap music, not really that much of a fan, but in my house, it was all about the lyrics. So if my kids wanted to listen to Christian rap or rap without the swearing, go for it. If they wanted to listen to any kind of music that had any swear words in it, it got busted. It got thrown out. So rap music, not really my bag of donuts, but if it's gonna be rap music, I don't want the swear words.
Okay. Barbie.
Barbie, interesting. I had one girl, if one girl and 4 boys, and I'm not all that excited about the reviews. Some of the stuff I read on the new Barbie movie, but other than that, Barbie and Ken, yeah, it's part of growing up.
Okay. Top Gun movies.
Top Gun, excitement. Anything in the realm of air traffic control isn't anywhere near what it is like in real life. If they on that, Top Gun, kind of a slick deal. I always remember the one line for some reason or other where the one pilot asked for Beemans. He always wants a stick of gum. if I'm remembering correctly. So Top Gun, yeah, neat movie.
Okay.
I haven't seen isn't there a new one out?
There is a new one, Top Gun Maverick. It's the sequel. It's the sequel to the original.
Oh, I'll have to go check that one out.
Oh, you'll like it a lot. You'll definitely like the movie a lot, no doubt. How about steak?
Steak, barbecue. I rarely eat steak out anymore because I do a better job. I mean, my wife and I, so we always keep. We go to Costco, and I'll prepare the meat ahead of time. I'll put the spices and everything in it, and then freeze it. And then when we want to have it, we'll take it out, and then while it's defrosting, it's the seasoning is already working in there, and then barbecuing it either with the smoker or the Weber. Oh, steak! I love steak.
All right. Hygiene.
Hygiene.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Very important, but showers. That's how I wake up in the morning. Hygiene. Yeah, I gotta. If you were to see my vehicles, or my house, or my garage, you know that I like things neat and in order. Uh, inside the motor, from the motor on, and then hygiene. Yeah, that's just important. It's just important part of life for sure.
Okay. Moses Lake.
Moses Lake. It's not the end of the world, but you can see it from here. That's I always tell everybody when they. We love Moses. Love Moses Lake. It's been a good. It was a good place to raise our family, and but at some point we'll be going someplace else. To get closer to grandkids. So, but God has been good to us here. We've enjoyed, been here a long time, since '85.
Wow. Just a few more words here. Family.
Family, what a gift from God. We try. Well, let's see. We try every year a couple times to see each of our grandkids. And in fact, around Thanksgiving, I took a couple days before Thanksgiving, one day after Thanksgiving, to go visit my son, who's a Navy SEAL, and because I hadn't seen him because of training and deployment for almost 2 years, and so it was just a real blessed time to be with him and play with the kids and talk and get caught up and just share each other. It's a real blessing to have for family. It really is.
Awesome. One more. Your faith.
My faith is the basis for everything I do and how I think and how I live my life. I lost my younger brother at the age of 16. Let's see, I would have been 20. And I lost my mom and my dad. And so my point is I don't know how people live their life without the hope that I have within me, knowing that Christ is in my life and that I've accepted him and it gives me a path for how to walk with God and how to live my life. I don't know people who go through tragedies like that. I don't know how they do that. Every I'm a soccer ref. I put it this way: every match that I ref is a gift from God. Actually, every day I live is a gift from God. And so when you approach life from from the good and the bad, what's considered the good and the bad, I'm just one blessed individual, and each day is just a gift from Him. And as I look at what's going on in the world today, you can see the acceleration of Him coming back. But no, faith is who I am and what I do and how I live my life. If I didn't have that, I don't know, I wouldn't be the same.
Awesome. Sandy, as we conclude, I was going to ask any final words that you'd like to tell our listeners.
Final words to tell them. Well, there you go. Christ is coming soon, and enjoy what He has given you, and try to follow what the Scripture says and how to live with Him, how to live with the Holy God. And life is so precious and so blessed when you do that. It really is.
Excellent. Well, Sandy, just want to thank you so much for your time doing this interview. It was definitely a pleasure. And I just want to say also, as your friend, it's just been great to know you these years. I really appreciated your friendship.
Likewise, and we'll continue to pray for you and your family, and excited just to see how God's dealing in your life as well.
Thank you so much, man. Take care.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
And that concludes this edition of Conversations with Mr. A, featuring Sandy Horney. Just want to say that I only worked with Sandy for 1 year, from 2017 to 2018, and I can tell you that just getting to know him back then and getting to know him all these years, it's definitely a pleasure. He's definitely an honorable person, a lot of integrity, a lot of stories, a lot of experiences. So it was really a pleasure to do this in this interview with him. It's been a while. I've been wanting to do it for quite some time. So thank you so much for listening. We'll come up with more editions soon. Take care.